He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Welcome to Son Coaches Podcast, and today we've got a special guest. He's a legend in the state of Georgia. He's won state championships as a head coach, assistant coach from the state of Florida. He's won two state championships as a head coach in Georgia. The current head coach at Lee County High School, great friend of mine, Coach Dean Fabrizio. Thanks for being with us today.
Coach Lamb, I appreciate you having me on. Happy 4th of July to all your listeners.
Well, Coach, it's been a long time coming. Been trying to work schedules out to get you on. I'm so glad you could get on with us today. Start by telling everybody, where you grew up and where you played high school ball.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and this is a great thing you're doing. I listen to most of these podcasts, and it's very, very enjoyable. And I know there's a lot of coaches who enjoy just, listen to other coaches and their story and things that they have to say. It's been really enjoyable, really helpful. We all appreciate you doing this. As far as my story, I was born in New York. My father was a retired New York City police officer. I was young. We moved down to Florida, went to high school down there, went off and played college football in Missouri, was actually a student assistant up there at a small college for 3 years. A graduate assistant at a small college for 3 years. I was able to get my master's degree, moved back down to Florida. One thing I regret at the time in Florida, it was only $1,000 more if you had your specialist degree. And I remember going down there and thinking, I'm kind of used to going to school. I went straight through, and had my master's right after my bachelor's, and I thought, well, that's really not worth $1,000 to go ahead and get your specialist. But dang, the way they're paying in Georgia for a specialist, I dang sure wish I would have now. But I'm a little out of the schooling age, so I don't know if I'll ever do that. But anyway, came back down, got a job at Colonial High School there in Orlando. Was my first job. Moved around to some different high schools as an assistant in Florida. Worked for some great coaches. Worked for Kenny Edenfield at Dr. Phillips. We had a heck of a team, and actually the defensive coordinator there was Charlie Anthony, who just retired. His last year was this year in Perry. He was a defensive coordinator at Perry and won a state title there with them. So a great football coach. Those people that know Charlie Anthony certainly know what kind of coach he was, and I learned a lot from him. Then I went to Edgewater, worked for a guy named Bill Gerke, and Chip Gerke, his brother. Bill won over 300 games. We had some phenomenal teams there at Edgewater, lost in the state finals a couple of years in a row. Some Miami teams out of Miami and some tough games. I've lost 2 state finals. One's assistant, one's the head coach, probably in as tough a fashion as you could lose them. In 2002, the largest class in Florida, we played a great Miami Norland team, had Dwayne Bowe and several other guys who ended up playing the NFL on it. And we were up, we took the lead and went up by 4 with about 40 seconds left. And we thought the game was over. And they hit a Hail Mary on us with about 10, 15 seconds left in the game. It's probably as devastating a loss. They had lined the field was where they'd, and it's in Tallahassee, it was a Doak Campbell, and they had lined they make sure you cannot come on the field. So they had the police out there with dogs. They were all over our side where our fans were, and then they had to run back to the other side because it was just, we scored to take the lead with about 50 seconds left, and just, I don't know if I've ever had just complete jubilation to complete despair like that in such a short period of time. Because, it's hard to win a state championship as an assistant player, head coach, whatever. It's hard to win them now, especially in as competitive places as Florida and Georgia. But we lost again the next year in the state finals. I was able to get an opportunity to be a head coach at DeLand High School, where I was there for a couple of years, and then went back to be an assistant in those school, and I learned a lot at DeLand. We had a couple of good seasons, but it just wasn't quite the right fit for me at the time. And then I ended up, I'd had a lot of friends who moved up and were coaching in Georgia, and talking about just how good it was up here, and how much better the pay was, how much better the situations were. And I kind of looked at some situations, and I went and spoke at a 3-3 clinic, and Chad Campbell, was at Peach County, so they were switching over 4-3 to 3-3, and we got to talking, and I ended up hitting it off, and followed him back to Peach County, met with him, and next thing I know, I was in the spring, and I ended up getting hired as the defensive coordinator at Peach County, working for Chad Campbell in 2008, I believe. And what a great experience there. I mean, Chad's a great football coach. A lot of really good football coaches on that staff. Mike Chastain, of course, now was a head coach of Warner Robins, now Jones County. Todd Cooper was the offensive coordinator, excellent coach. And I just learned a lot from them. And it did me good to kind of acclimate to how Georgia works and how Georgia football is. And I really, really enjoyed my time there at Peach County. I probably, great kids, hardworking, and you talk about a place that really supports football. Fort Valley does, and I really enjoyed it. I was kind of sitting there, and I said, I was really happy there, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna throw out see if I can get an interview here in Georgia. So I just kind of go through it. I threw something out in Lee County. I didn't know much about it. I'd only been in Georgia a little bit. Talked to some people about it, and they said, probably not a great situation. I've been playing football 40 years and only had, I think, 5 winning seasons. And I know we had actually a kid who transferred from Lee County to Peach County. His dad was an college administrator, and he moved from Albany State to Fort Valley State. So we kind of kept track, and I knew from the year before, just from him, that they didn't win a game. And I went and interviewed, and they interviewed a ton of people. It was like they were hiring a coach for the Green Bay Packers or something like that, And they ended up offering me the job. It was a really tough decision because I really didn't want to leave Peach County because I loved it there. But I just thought the opportunity was one. The more I looked at it, the more I said, there's really nothing that stands out on why they can't be successful here. Now, when I took the job, it was an eye opener for sure. They said the good Lord watches out for fools, and he certainly watched out for me, because had I known better, I probably would not have come. But because there was a lot of and that's one thing when you take a head job. If the problems you think are there, unless you're inheriting one that you're on staff, the problems you think are there, when you open that hood, there's always a lot more than you think. And there was a whole lot of things we had to get right, and there were some great head coaches that came here before me. Some really, really good head coaches that come through Lee County. They didn't have the support at the time, or they didn't catch the right breaks at the time. Lee County kind of been in one of those things where every time they get just a little bit of momentum, they get bumped up to the top, bumped up a class, and they just wasn't ready for that. It knocked the program back a bunch of years if you look historically, and so they're coming off an 0-10 season. And what I didn't realize was they were over at every level: JV, freshman, middle school, everything. And then, the superintendent time at Peach, apparently because I was such a phenomenal social studies teacher, wouldn't release me from my contract. So I had to finish out the year teaching at Peach. So I didn't really get much of an off season there at Lee that first year. And, I tell people, man, we didn't talk about winning the state title when I got here. We were just trying to win a game. I mean, literally, it was one of the longest losing streaks in the state. I lost the first 5-6 games here, and it was like, we're just trying to win a game, literally, and finally broke through and won a couple of games that first year, and did some reorganizing with the middle school staff and got our middle school numbers up. We had, 20, 25 eighth graders playing, and over 50 eighth graders, 60 eighth graders playing. And that second year, we went on and won 7 games. I mean, we were in a tough region too. Northside, Warner Robins had played for the state title in the largest class before they moved down. Warner Robins had a heck of a team. TCC was rolling back then. Ed Pilcher was at Bainbridge. It was a tough region, but we won 7 games. It felt like we won 20 games. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those years we threw it all. I've always been a big believer, and you've got to adjust to what you have. And we tried to create a lot of excitement. At the time, people weren't throwing the ball around like they are now. We tried to go fast, throw the ball around a lot, create a lot of excitement. We did that. We try to put a lot of our better players on offense to create that excitement, and gotten some high scoring games. That year it still stands. 2009, a state record for most passing yards in a game. We threw for 590 yards in a game and lost. Oh, no. We lost the game. Matter of fact. So, one of those, but that felt great. We the next year we kind of took a step back, only won 4 games, or close on a couple others. But I knew what I could see coming is, my first year there was the 3rd year in a row the middle school didn't win a game. And once we reorganized it and got a lot more kids out, you could see those kids coming. We went from, like I said, 20 coming in an 8th and 9th grade class to 50 and 60. So we took a step forward the next year, won 7 games. And then I think 2013, we really broke through, won 10 games, won the region. First time they'd had back-to-back winning seasons, first time in school history. And our freshman team went undefeated. Our middle school team went undefeated. And I thought, man, we have got this thing rolling. We'd actually split the 2 middle schools in, and one of the 2 went undefeated. And I thought, man, we've got this thing rolling. And right about there, going into the second round of playoffs, GHSA comes out with the new classifications, as you know, every year. So, I'm feeling pretty good. We're going to the second round of the playoffs. We're hosting the second round, and I get a call from my principal, and he says, "Have you seen the classifications that just came out?" I said, "Well, no, I didn't." He said, "Well, it's going to be kind of tough." So I look it up, and they drew the line at us at 1,800 kids for 6A.
Drew the line.
They drew at us. They ran it down. They had to get one more school in the top class, so they kept going down and they drew it at us. And so we were in there with Colquitt County, who at the time was going to be would go on to have Russia's 2 best teams and win state 2 years in a row. Lowndes, who was rolling under Randy McPherson at the time, Valdosta with Rance Gillespie. John Reed had just got to Rome and had that role. And, of course, Camden, Jeff Herron. So it was a monster league we were in. And so that kind of put a little damper on things in the season. and I thought, well, this might be a good time for me to look to go somewhere else. But they made some commitments here to facilities. We were at the time probably, even though we've had great support here from our, I've worked for 3 superintendents. They've all been phenomenal. I've worked for 2 principals. They've been great support wise. Our school board's been supportive. But, at the time, we didn't have the facilities that other places had. And they made some commitments to upgrade the facilities. And, again, good Lord watches out for fools. I ended up staying. And, that next year, I remember going into region play. I think Colquitt was ranked number 1 in the state. Lowndes was number 2. Valdosta was number 3. And maybe Camden was number 4. I said, well, would you look at this? And TIFF was undefeated as well. We went in and we beat TIFF. This is 2014. We beat TIFF County. And that was just a huge win for us to win in the region with John Reed. Of course, how good a coach he is. And then next week, we're 6-0, went over and played Colquitt County. And, of course, they had a phenomenal team. And we made some mistakes early, and they jumped up on us, beat us pretty good. And our quarterback, who's a heck of a player, got hurt. We didn't know if he was out for the year or what. So we're 6-1, but we'd taken a beat, and we kind of thought, we had Lowndes coming to town the next week. So it was kind of a back to reality there. And, if you remember at the time, now 2014, Lowndes was the 800-pound gorilla. Nobody wanted any part of that. And so I remember sitting there, and that weekend was a tough one. We put a plan together. We didn't know if the quarterback was going to play. And I had, people in our system just called me, said, hey, look, we'll get through these 2 years. We'll drop back down to second class. Just hold on. It'll be all right. And we go in, quarterback gets cleared midweek to play. We go out and play Lowndes. And it's just one of them phenomenal nights, man. Our quarterback played lights out. Our receivers played lights out. We caught every kind of break there was. I remember at one point we were up in the third quarter by 31 points. And I thought, this is amazing. I thought that we ended up winning by, I think, 17. And it was just an unbelievable win, an unbelievable feeling. And, from then on, I don't know if we've ever been an underdog since that game.
Yeah.
But, this is 2014 for us to beat Lowndes End. I remember waking up that next morning and just thinking, did we really beat them or did I dream this? And having to actually pause for a second. And then we had to go all the way to Camden the next week, and we beat Camden by 17 points. We go back to back for us in 2000. And I don't know now if people understand how big that was, but in 2014, for us to beat Lowndes and Camden back to back was unbelievable. Would have been unheard of 3 years before that. If someone would have said that was going to happen, people would have laughed you off the thing. So we ended up doing that, and we ended up losing by 1 point to Valdosta. Then we won a playoff. We beat Lovejoy in the playoffs in the first round. And they were just a year removed from 2 back-to-back state title game appearances. So it was just one of those magical years. And lost in the second round to a great Archer team who ended up losing in the finals to Colquitt. And the next year we started things off rolling pretty good, sitting in the highest class 6-0. I think ranked third in the state. We played Colquitt here, and it was. They couldn't pack another person into this place, and ended up losing to them. And then the next week, karma kind of hit us. We played Lowndes, and the quarterback actually did get hurt early. They beat us, and we lost a close game to Camden, and then about Valdosta finished 6-4. And it's just one of those, kind of years where we had all kinds of momentum. And then, they reclassified again in 16, and we dropped down a class, but that year, heck, Valdosta came down with us. Coffee was in there. They had a heck of a team. Northside, Warner Robins, we got put back in with them. And it was just a stacked league we were in then. And I remember that year looking at it when region play started. Houston County was number 1 in the state. They had a quarterback named Jake Fromm. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
Yes. Northside was number 2. We were 3, Valdosta was 4, Coffee was 5. That was going into region play. All five teams in our region were 1 through 5. So we played. That was QB1 was following Jake Fromm. Netflix was here. We all had our region up week to week before. Kirby Smart was at the game. The buildup was phenomenal. We ended up beating them in that game. A huge win for us. We had a phenomenal defense that year with Aubrey Solomon, Achilles Leroy, Otis Reese, just some phenomenal players, and won that game. So we now, Valdosta had beat Northside in a close game the week before. So we now become number 1 in the state, which was unbelievable for Lee County to be number 1 in the state. Well, our reward was to go play Northside, Warner Robins at Northside, and Kevin Kinsler, heck of a ball coach. Chad Alley was the OC. And we went over there, and I remember Chris Parker, the Michigan assistant, was at the game because Aubrey Solomon had committed to Michigan. And he said, Dean, I've been to a lot of high school football games. I don't know if I've seen a more physical game than that. But we lost a tough one in Northside, lost a close one the next week to Valdosta, ended up turning around, beating Coffee, and then lost. You end up getting beat in the second round to a really good Mays team. We got a tough draw, being the 3rd seed. But we thought we had a heck of a team that year that could play with anybody. We just, lost a couple of tough games that got us a bad seed. And then the next year, 2017, was kind of one of those years we broke through. We ended up having a phenomenal year. That was a year we made it to the state finals. We're on the way up there, and I get a phone call with this GHS saying the game's been postponed because of an ice storm in Atlanta. And we're on the way up there. So I got to start calling people. We got spirit buses going. We got all that. I'm calling people. Everybody thinks I'm playing a joke on them. I said, no, game's not on turn around. But the good thing is we got to host the game the next week. We got to host it here at our place. And what an unbelievable atmosphere. Luke Ryan on the sideline. We end up beating Coffee in overtime. And wow, what an unbelievable game that was to win it and win it right here. That was just a phenomenal experience. And the next year, we're fortunate. We had a bunch of, we had another great team. We ended up winning it again, win back to back. We ended up losing in the 3rd round. Next year, 11 games, made it to the finals in 20 in the COVID year. And it's funny. I remember saying in 2017, when that game got pushed back a week, guys, this is the latest we're ever going to coach football, coaching here in high school. And because it was, I think, December 19th or something like that. Well, the next year, we played in the Geico Bowl after a week and a half later. So we ended up playing like the 22nd of December. And I said, guys, this will really be as late. But then the COVID year, we played, I think, till December 29th, which was unbelievable. I said, I'm not going to say it again, guys. So
Yeah.
this should be the latest we'll play. But that was a year, of Buford. We played, game went to overtime. We held them to a field goal the first session, and then we had a first and goal at the 4 and fumbled the ball going in. It's a score, and they recovered it and got the win. So about as heartbreaking a loss as you could have in the state finals. So, we've had just a great run here. Hopefully we can keep it rolling. We're in a tough league. Again, we got 2 defending state champions in TCC and Coffee in our region. So we got a tough non-region schedule, but, we feel like we got a pretty good team coming back. So hopefully we'll be okay.
Well, building it from, the people out there that don't know, when you said, beating Lowndes and Camden back to back, they might have been like, you talking about baseball, right? not football. But back then, that's what Lee County's always been known for that.
Yeah.
But the job that y'all have done is just nothing short of phenomenal, like you say, and getting there and not winning at any level, and then within 5 years getting it. I bet I know how crazy that place went when y'all got that number 1 ranking. And
well, the thing about it was, like I tell people, it wasn't like we got here. I mean, literally, we were trying the first year. It was just, can we just win a game? I mean, I remember that season, like, please, we just got to win a game. And then it got to be, if we could ever just have a winning season. And it got to be, man, if we could win a game, host a game and win a game in the playoffs, wow, we would have made it then, man. That would just be unbelievable. And then it was, can we get to the 3rd round? We can do that. Then it was, and then boom, next thing you know, it was never like we were talking about winning the state title. Next thing we won a state title was, hey, can you repeat?
Right.
And then after you repeat, everybody thinks it's easy, and they're, those things are hard. Oh, yeah. So really hard. Everybody's talking about, well, next year on the ring we'll get this, and you're like, man, there might not be a next year. We're gonna try like heck to have one, but it's hard to do, and especially here in Georgia, as competitive as it is, many great coaches as there is, and as many communities support football like they do.
Well, what's the biggest difference you think, just from, being at successful programs in Central and North Florida and coming to Georgia? What's one of the biggest differences you see, just between those 2 places, or is there one?
Well, first off, there's a lot of great coaches in Florida, but overall, the support you get here in Georgia, and football is just supported a lot more by the school systems. And then, when you're able to pay coaches a lot more, you're able to get a lot better staffs top to bottom. Not saying there's not great staffs in Florida and great coaches, because there is, but I just think you're able to get so many more, so many better staffs top to bottom because of what you're able to pay. And then, just like I said, the support you have. And, when I first got to Georgia 16, 17 years ago, I thought there was clearly a talent difference, though, between Georgia and Florida. And I think that gap has been closed to where it's pretty even, the talent level in Georgia and the talent level in Florida over these last 15, 16 years. And I think the recruiting, you see the way people sign, I think it speaks for that. When you look at how many big-time guys are 5 stars and 4 stars are in Georgia as compare that to Florida, especially if you take IMG out of the equation. So, but I just think the support you have, and there's a few reasons for that in Florida, why the pay is as much. First, there's no state income tax. Second, there's no city school systems, and the growth has just been so fast down there. They've just tried to keep up with building things, and then third, you got a lot more retirees who they don't have as much of a vested interest in the school systems. So I think those things combined are why that hasn't. It just hasn't caught on quite as much. I know there's a lot of groundswell support to pay coaches more in Florida, and I really hope they do. The problem is you just got so many big school systems down there. You look, and probably if you look at the top 25 largest school systems in the country, probably 7 or 8 of them are in Florida. And when you've got that, it's one thing to raise the pay for just a few. A one school county or several of them, but when you got to do it for 25 high schools in your county, well, that's hard.
Right.
So hopefully they do something and get the right. Like I said, there's a lot of great coaches there, and people talk about all the coaches from Florida that moved to Georgia, but there's still the thing you got to understand is there's still a lot of people moving to Florida, wanting to get out of that cold, wanting to get by a beach, and there's a lot of coaches that are still moving to Florida. That's what they don't ever talk about as well. How many coaches are moving to Florida? And I think that's something. You also got supply and demand. And, for years and years and years, people were moving and flooding to Florida. 70s, 80s, 90s, it was fastest growing state in the country. And because of that, you had people flooding in. Naturally, a lot of them were teachers. Some were teachers like anything else. And so supply and demand, too, is the reason I think that's kept the pay down.
Yeah, I was in Pensacola this past weekend, and we went and played Gulf Breeze, and Gulf Breeze High School, the Dolphins. They had really nice facilities. It's in a really nice area. I don't know what they pay, but if I was a beach guy, that would be that'd be a place I'd probably check out. But
that's a nice area.
Yeah, another thing people probably don't remember, and I remember because I interviewed with you at the old place before you got the upgrade in the new facilities, and did you need some new facilities? Because I remember you remember the coaches met in like the old ISS room, and they had the old desk. Everybody was pushed together, and still looking at old TVs. And
we had the Lee County grew so fast that it was really hard to keep up with it. And over the years, and we were in a locker room probably with 120 plus kids that's probably built for about 50 kids crammed in there. Our freshmen were dressing in a portable, no bathroom. Our training room was a portable. Our weight room was a small room across the school. And, it just had grown so fast, and they had to build schools, over the years. It was hard to devote SPLOST money to building facilities. But, as over time, they've been able to do that. We have a beautiful weight room here. Our locker room is phenomenal. They just turfed our softball and baseball fields. So we've got our band room is second to none. So they've done a great job here over the years upgrading the facilities. Like I said, we've got great support here for the activities and sports and athletics and the arts here from our superintendent, our school board, and I've been blessed to have worked for some good people here.
Yeah, that's the thing that when people do come down there, or I remember when you first got the new place, and people were like, man, as soon as we got there, Coach Fabrizio was like, hey, let me show you this, let me show you that. And I'm like, well, you got to remember now what he had before. He's proud, he should be proud because they needed it. And especially when you're trying to outfit 140 to 160 kids program wide.
Well, and the thing was, I sat here and watched this thing get built over a 3-year period, and because the footprint they put it in was kind of tough where they put it, but it attached to the school. And but it was great when we finally got in it in summer of 2017, but it was almost a little, because you were just looking forward to it. You're finally in it. It's almost a little melancholy. Oh, now we're in it. What do we look forward to now? But it was, it's been great. We've been blessed here, and, fortunately it couldn't have timed up better. I don't think it was 3 or 4 years before we lost a home game here after we built this facility.
Well, this is super nice. I know we're coming over there for padded camp later this week, and that's going to be awesome. Can't wait to see everything again, see you again. And I know when you were at Dr. Phillips, mutual friends, Rodney Wells and James Thompson, you coached both of them. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys that you've touched in the state of Florida, and guys that you've coached. Who are some of the better ones that you remember that stand out? I know you've coached so many that were really, really good. Is there anybody that just, really stand out that you're like, oh yeah, I coached that guy?
Well, and somebody asked me that the other day about kids here, but I mean, it all might start with the kid we've got right now, and there's Monty Croma. I mean, he's probably as good a player as I've been ever blessed to coach, and he's a great one and a great kid. I go back into Rodney Wells, who's now the head coach at Dr. Phillips. What a great player he is. Doug Gabriel played for us there, played 6 years in the NFL. He's actually the head coach at Wekiva now. They're going to come up and play us this year. Wekiva High School is. So it'd be neat to get to coach against him. Mike Sims Walker was a great one, playing several years in the NFL. And probably, funny thing is, probably the most decorated guy as far as going to the league and being an all-pro that I had the fortune of coaching, didn't even get on the field for. So as a kid, and in 2002 at Edgewater, we had a heck of a team. Ended up losing in the state finals, largest class. I mean, a heck of a team. and both our corners were Division I corners. One ended up playing the NFL. And we had a kid showed up about a week after practice started named Darius Rogers. He was about 5'11", 125 pounds. And we had a heck of a team already. He was a week late. You could see he was athletic, but, you know, he just was kind of a scout guy. Wasn't really a jump in the front of the line, but you could see he was athletic. And you thought, well, this guy's going to get a shot next year. Well, you know, Christmas comes, and after we get back, and, you know, these big city schools now, you got a lot of kids in and out. And he doesn't come, you know, he ends up moving. So where's he at? Oh, yeah, he moved. He ended up moving to Bradenton. So fast forward a few years later, Tennessee Tech coach, I'm now the head coach of the Land. Tennessee Tech coach comes by and says, hey, coach, did you coach Darius Rogers? And I said, oh, yeah, I remember Darius. He said, well, he plays at Tennessee Tech. He's going to be a first-round pick. And I thought, oh, come on. Well, by then, he'd added the name Cromartie to his name, Darius Rogers Cromartie, because he was fifth cousins or something with Antonio Cromartie and thought that would get his better draft. He ends up going in the first round, plays 10 years in the league, all-pro, Darius Rogers Cromartie. Unbelievable story there. The guy didn't even get on the field for us, so I don't know. But yeah, I was blessed there to have a lot of great players. I was fortunate to coach against there in Florida, and then here in Georgia, you know, at Lee County. Aubrey Solomon, what a phenomenal player. Otis Reese, who's playing for the Titans now. Great player. Jamie Robinson, who's with the Panthers right now. Great player. Torrey Carter ended up playing for us. He played 2 years. He won a national championship at LSU. Juju McDowell, another great player. You know, we've just been blessed to have some great players come through here. And like Griffin McDowell, who's now in camp with the Chiefs, played here for us, lineman, and I could just go on and on about the good players that have come through, and you know, and not only that, but I think about just all the good kids and people that have come through. I've been blessed to have some great assistant coaches come through here and coach, and that's really been the backbone of things. And then, you know, I tell people all the time, we've had some just great high school football players here, and you know, our best teams, we had a lot of kids who their senior year, they stepped up and had just a phenomenal year. And maybe they weren't big time, and maybe they were an NAIA Division II level player, but man, they stepped up, and there were kids who, you know, played in our middle school program, started on the freshman team, played JV as a 10th grader, were backup special team guys as juniors. And then their senior year stepped up and were starters and had a phenomenal year. And our best teams, we had the most guys like that, you know, and that's the thing. You just remember all those guys too as well that came through, and the great players. You know, one of our former players, 2013, he's coaching in college now. He's back home because I guess they got a couple of weeks off. He comes out to practice today, and that's the neat thing about being somewhere so long. Where I'll be on, you know, year 16 here next year. And, you know, I never spent more than 5 years at any one school prior to coming here, and to be at a place this long, it's just really neat to see all those kids come back over the years and how much it means to them.
Yeah, it's hard for people to understand how, like when I was at Northside, it was hard for people to understand, especially this day and time with people, you know, they want immediate gratification, getting these kids to understand and getting their parents to understand, and telling other coaches, like, when you have a program like a Lee County or Thomas County Central or a Northside, you know, the bigger schools where you have 140, 160 kids in your program, you're like, well, yeah, we have a freshman team and we have a JV team and then we have a varsity. And a lot of these kids, they don't really play and contribute, probably 95% of them until they're seniors. You know, it's really true development. You know, you're truly developing that kid so that, you know, that's just the way it is at the bigger programs.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we've tried to do here, is try to get up. That's really, like I told you earlier, I think was the biggest thing here is we were able to get a lot of kids out. And, you know, when I was at Peach County, if they had 20 freshmen, they were going to have 21 seniors. I mean, those kids were going to play football no matter what. And Lee County, you know, it's more of even though it's a South Georgia community, it's more of a suburban type school because we're a bedroom community for Albany. You know, 90% of the people in Lee County work in Albany. We're a true bedroom community. And so because of that, our kids got other stuff to do. So it was important to get a lot of kids out because you don't know which ones are going to stick with it. You don't know which ones are going to continue to grow. And the more you have, the more chances you have to hit on some good players. And that's been big for us, the amount of kids we have and the development of kids. And, we're fortunate. We've had some great players here. We've had a handful that started 4 years for us that all ended up being great players. We've had some 3-year starters, but the backbone of our teams and when we're really our best teams have been when we've had the most guys like that who started as seniors and were first-year starters and ended up being really, really good players and stayed in that were in the program all the way through. And that's the thing here is getting all those kids out, keeping them out has just been a big deal for us. And the other thing is, what I don't know if people realize is, and I'm a big believer in this, there's kids on this team who might never play a meaningful down on a Friday night, but they got more out of football than the stars. They got as much or more out of being on this football team than the stars on our team. Just being part of something, the self-confidence it taught them, the social skills it taught them, being in the weight room, just being part of a team like that and being out here every day. That kid got as much out of playing football as the kid who got a Division I scholarship. There's been so many kids like that, and that's why football is a no-cut sport most places, and that's why I think football is just so important because it can impact kids like that even if they don't play.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it gives them something to do, something to belong to, something to strive for, and they're built in a social group. They're part of something.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know you're a big believer in that. That's one thing here. We got a lot of kids, and we're going to treat them all. We're going to treat them all the same. If the stars eat, the other kids eat. If they get this gear, the other kids who show up every day to practice get this gear. And I've had other guys tell me, man, why do you really need that many kids out? And I'm like, well, if they make it through the practices every day and they show up to their work, they're going to play. They're going to be on this team. And that was always my thing was, do we need all of them out here? Well, no, we don't need all those kids. We don't need to have 100. Right now, 9 through 12, we've got probably 185 kids in our program. Do we need them? Maybe not, but which of those kids does it have the most impact on? And I'm not, I tell you, the biggest change, in Florida, if you played in the JV game, you couldn't dress for the varsity game the next night. So you never dressed more than 60 kids. I can remember my first time in Georgia having all those kids on the sideline. Holy come on. You go play at Colquitt where there's literally no sideline and you got all those kids, 125 kids on that sideline. Holy cow. But, I'm not going to have a dress. I mean, which of those kids does it mean something to run out with the team? I mean, they work every day in practice and, and I'm a big believer, football's the greatest team game and the better scout team you have, the better team you're going to be. So those kids are important. And that kid out there on scout team all week, well, shoot, that's his reward to get to go out there. Now, some of them may not want to go, yes, but a lot of them do, and you don't know which ones are like that. So yeah, we bite the bullet and take them all. So, I think it's worth it for what it does for those kids and how much it means to them to be part of a team and be part of something. And just like I've heard a lot of your guys talk on these podcasts, football is probably needed more today than ever in the society. And you saw that great video that Tom Brady just put out about why football is important for kids to play because it's hard and it forces them to go through something and forces them to go through tough things. And that's what they're going to need to be successful in life. And I think today there's just kids because of all the technology and everything. I mean, they don't have to leave the house to play with their friends. I mean, I remember one time a kid leaving. I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "Oh, I'm going home so we can get on the game and play with each other." And I'm like, what? You're leaving the house so y'all can play. That doesn't make any sense to me. But the kids are there's just not as many hard things for kids to go through. And, I saw something, not that this is something probably for you because you're a lot smarter guy than me, but it was a neuroscientist talking. And he said, if kids at adolescent age, particularly late teens, if they complete something hard, literally they can see the neurons in their brain form a link and form tracks. And if they complete it, if they don't complete it, the tracks don't lock in. But if they truly complete something hard, those tracks lock in and they can call on that next time they do something hard and it makes something easier. And I mean, you know how true that is. Anytime you've been through something hard and made it through, well, the next time it makes it a lot easier. And that's something that I thought, hey, that makes a lot of sense. And there is science behind. If you quit once, you're more likely to quit again, I guess.
Yeah, it creates problem solving skills and everything else. I remember a couple of weeks ago, somebody sent me a 10-minute video. Somebody put a YouTube video out of Bonwell Royal right after he had passed away. It was a video of them at camp in 2003, I think. And, back then you could have camp and you went off to camp. And man, some of the looks on some of those kids' faces, they were reevaluating some life choices they had made. It's like going into the last day of camp, and then they showed them, fighting and whatever, and in the background they're playing Forever Young, and there's just a fist fight breaks out, and but they were at the end they all got on the bus together and came home. And they had a great year that year. I mean, it's just part of it. I mean, that's just the way it used to be. And speaking of the way things used to be, what are some things within the business and the coaching aspect of it that you've seen change for the good or the bad over the years?
Oh, well, things have certainly different now than they were, good and bad. I mean, you think of the times we used to do film exchanges. I mean, that wasn't that long. I mean, that's the thing. Since I've gotten here, we were still, since I've gotten to Lee County, I mean, there was no huddle before I got here. I remember making the film exchange list and getting up early and driving and exchanging that film. And if you wanted to get film on another team, off the black market, so to speak, you'd have to go and drive and see the person and get it and bring it back. And huddles just made such a difference there. In a good way, I think. What we demand out of these kids now. I can remember that this is part of the COVID year, where we couldn't do anything. They finally released that we could bring in the kids in the summer, and all we could do was lift them. And I remember that years back, the COVID summer.
Yeah.
Well, if you had a coach on your staff under 40 years old, they were panicking.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is all for the first half of my career. This is all we did. We had a weight room open in the morning. We had a weight room open at night, and they had to make so many lifts. Maybe we ran them a little bit. I mean, that's all we did.
June wasn't. We didn't practice like we do now. There wasn't 7-on-7, and I mean, you might have thrown against each other every now and then, but
it was a whole different. So what we do with them now, and so I said, as long as it's even, and no one can do, no one's breaking the rules, and we're all doing this. What difference does it make? We're all the same. And I'll be honest, early in that year, I thought the play was probably a little more sloppy than usual, but I thought by mid-season, by late season, I don't think there was any, it was, I think it was just as good a ball as the other years. And even though we didn't do as much with them in the summer, and we actually had less injuries that year. That might have been just a freak occurrence, but I think it had something to do with not doing as much with them. So there's good and bad to that. We're certainly a lot more prepared when we hit the season. But, on the flip side, we do a lot more with kids than we used to do. Traveling to games. I mean, I remember you used to grab the balls and go. Now, holy cow, it's like moving a small army to a game. You got TVs, you got end zone cameras, you got so many things to take to a game. I mean, you better have some organization in doing that now. I mean, so that's another big thing. All the stuff that goes on in games, the sideline video, I think, is a huge change in things too. It used to be that guy up in the box played a big role. Now you can see exactly what's going on in between each series. So that's something I have different feelings on that. Obviously we use it because it's allowed, and if you don't, you're going to be at a disadvantage. But I don't necessarily think that should be allowed, where you can watch video during a game. But it is, so we do it. So that's one thing that's made just a huge change over the years, good and bad. I know everybody talks about kids moving around and things like that. In Florida, there's always been a lot more variance policies where kids could move. So I've kind of dealt with that for a long time. And I do think it happens more prevalent now. I don't think it's as much more prevalent as people think it is. I just think because of social media, everybody can see it a lot more.
Right.
I mean, you look at some of these teams, what is it in the 70s? Valdosta won 8 out of 10 state titles or something like that. Well, you don't think there were some advantages there they had to win 8 out of 10 years?
Right.
And I know those coaches were great coaches and football meant a lot, but there was certainly something going on there to win 8 out of 10 years.
Or LaGrange.
And not saying Coach Duke, not accusing anybody of that, but when you win that much in that amount of time, I mean, there were probably kids moving in, but you didn't hear about it because there wasn't on social media.
Right.
I think probably one of the things that I miss the most, though, is with, and it's been coming for years, but it got exacerbated after COVID, is the seniors. The seniors now just aren't on campus that much. I don't know how it's at your place, but our seniors, I mean, they only got to take a few classes, and then you got to move on when ready. And it's just the atmosphere is not the same as it used to be. It just used to be, I mean, it was such a buildup during the season, during game day and all that. But so many kids aren't on campus now. It's just not quite the same. And then the recruiting, the fact that everything is bumped up so early, that the kid's senior year, I mean, it used to be, the recruiting didn't take off now and really start until during their senior year. I mean, they knew they were before that, but there was no offers and everything until after their senior year. And that's when they took the visits after their senior year ended. And now, I mean, shoot, for the big schools now, they've all got to make their choice pretty much before that. And they're doing official visits for their senior year. And the thing about it is it really doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the colleges having to evaluate them earlier. It certainly doesn't help the kids getting all that attention earlier in the long run. It doesn't help the high school coaches for sure, but that's just the way it is now. I guess it helps college football fans, which they're the ones dropping everything. So, so I guess, because I say that, but then I pay attention to it too. So who's going where and all this, but it's just almost like, guys, dang, shouldn't they evaluate them through their senior year? And I know it, once you get out of the power, 4 conferences now, that's the way it is. Most of them do. But for the big boys, I mean, they're done recruiting before they're done with this year's 2025 class. They're pretty much done recruiting before their senior year. And you think, hey, the way kids grow in a year and develop, you think they want to evaluate through that senior year. But that's just not the way things are now. And, of course, the transfer portal, that's something that, I just see so many kids hurting themselves jumping in that transfer portal. Now, it definitely helps some, but I see so many hurting themselves. And now what you have is colleges coming in and when the new staff comes in, they want to push the kids that are there out and free up spots. They're not forced to work with those kids. So it's people don't understand how much that portal is actually hurting kids. Yes, it's helping some, but it's hurting a lot of them too. And I don't think with kids moving around like this, it's going to be interesting, 10 years from now when they look back at the research, because it's still all new, how it affected kids as far as graduation with moving around so much, and then how it affected kids with not making connections to the alumni base, because kids are, they're not staying there the whole time. They're going to different schools. So they're not seen as part of that school, how that affects them for the rest of their lives, So it'll be interesting with that. You talk to every college coach you talk to, they're not happy with it. It's tough on them. Every high school coach isn't happy with it, but it keeps rolling on, apparently.
Yeah. The point you made about having seniors, it's really detrimental to small schools because your leaders of your school aren't there. There's no your best and brightest or the kids that walk around and tell the other kids and develop the culture and have seen the culture develop at the individual high schools aren't there to correct the younger kids. And this is the way we do this, or, these are the traditions we have here. This is how we dress, this is how we do this pep rally. This is how we whatever, or we don't behave that way. We don't act that way here. This is how we do in the lunchroom. This is how we, because they'll listen to a senior before they'll listen to an adult. And when you don't have those kids on school, whether it's move on ready or work-based learning, or they're just not there because they only have to be there for 1 or 2 classes, especially at a small school, it's huge. I mean, they're just, you don't see those kids. I mean, I've been to graduations before when I was like, who are these kids? I've never seen these kids before in my life, because you don't see them. I mean,
you're right. You're exactly right.
Like, so-and-so's the valedictorian. I've never seen that kid before.
Yes, they haven't stepped on campus but a few times. And but I think today with kids, because it used to be, if you didn't come to school, you didn't know what was going on. But nowadays, with the phones and everything like social media, they're able to stay in communication just as easily.
Oh, yeah.
I remember going off to college. It's a big deal to get a letter now. I mean, it costs money to call somebody on that phone, long distance.
Yeah.
It was a big deal to get a letter. Now they can stay in touch just as easily with people, and I remember talking to somebody about this kind of off topic of football, but you'll understand this. And these coaches here, probably these old heads like me, you will understand this. Remember when you was a kid and somebody knocked on your door, how big a deal that was. Remember, everybody go, the whole family, hey, who's here? Hey, come on in. They'd have snacks. Now, if somebody knocks on your door and you're not expecting them, it's a whole thing. Ooh, what's going on? Who's that? Why somebody knocking on my door? Because everybody's going to call. No one just shows up. But back then, you didn't have cell phones. You didn't have all that. People would just show up. Knock on your door. Hey, is Dean here? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, come on in. My parents would just say, here, have something to eat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When you're in South Georgia and people will say, well, stop by and see me. And they literally mean that. Or they see you drive by and you don't stop. Even these days, they're still, I saw you drive by the other day. You didn't stop by. Oh, you meant that. You really meant to stop by. And yeah, you're right. I mean, these days, it's just things have changed so much. People are so insulated and isolated. And I don't know, it's different.
One thing I want to mention, I've been really lucky to coach in some great environments down here. When you coach at Verse at Coffee and at that stadium, when you go to McConnell Talbert and you play Northside or Warner Robinson, man, when they're having a good year, man, what an atmosphere at those places. Of course, down at when you play Colquitt down there in Moultrie. What an unbelievable atmosphere that is. Lowndes, of course, is a tremendous place. Of course, I've been ejected twice, once at Lowndes and once at Moultrie. And both were packed houses. And I can remember, at Lowndes, I don't know if you know, I was down all the way at the other end of the field from the visitors' locker room. And it was 2 penalties on the sideline. So I go out there and they come over and say, Coach, you're ejected. I said, what do you mean I'm ejected? Penalty's not even on me. They said, no, 2 penalties on the sideline. The head coach is ejected. So I'm arguing, well, now they've already done the ejection symbol. Now the fans suddenly realize it's me that's ejected. I've got to jog 80 yards to get off the field. And they're waving at me and doing that. And of course, this last year that got a lot of publicity, we were at Moultrie and there's probably 8,000 people there and it's an electric atmosphere. And, if you've ever been there, their fans are right on top of you. And I mean, right on top of you. And, I got, again, same thing, 2 personal fouls. So they call me in and they're arguing, saying about, well, I look down and the official's flag is at my feet. So I go to pick it up, which I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I picked the flag up and then I'm looking at it and I'm like, what am I going to do now? So I almost was going to walk over and give it to him. And I thought, well, that's not going to look good. So I put it in my pocket, thinking that was the best thing to do. Of course, I hear a roar from the crowd now that the flag is in my pocket. So now I realize, well, I probably really messed up. So they now tell me, hey, that's 2, you're ejected. So I'm walking out. I've got the flag in my pocket. So I get out of the stadium and I throw the thing because I'm frustrated. Well, I'm thinking I'm out of the stadium. No one sees me. Little did I know the camera had followed me. I'm on the Jumbotron this whole time. And the news is following me with the thing. And I said, that probably was not a very good idea to do. But I mean, it just was one of those things. You're in the moment. I saw the flag. I think I'm going to pick it up. And I thought, well, heck, I'll go give it to him. Then I thought, well, that's probably not the best idea right now. So what do I do with it? I can't. So I almost toss it to him. But then I think, oh, that's probably.
Yeah, that looks worse. Do you try to explain it to them and they won't listen?
So then I just put it in my pocket, thinking nobody will see me. And everybody sees me. So they're also. So that was not a good decision on my part to do that. And, I paid the price for it, but you learn to move on. So
note to younger coaches: leave flags on ground. Don't pick up.
Yes,
flags.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Definitely because there's no way out of it once you pick it up. There's really nothing. There's nothing else I can do at that point after I pick that flag up. So. But the atmosphere, playing at Valdosta, I've got to experience that, playing some huge games playing there. Just those atmospheres to play in. We've gotten to play in a state championship at our home field, gotten to play one in Mercedes-Benz, and gotten to play one at Georgia State. So gotten to experience those three things. And of course, there's pluses and minuses to all three of them. I personally like playing it on the home stadium site of a team. I think that's just, you can't beat that atmosphere. Playing it in Mercedes-Benz, of course, is really neat for the kids, and being able to play it in there. It's just the logistics of being in there are so tough, and then Georgia State did a phenomenal job with it, but a great job. And that's a nice venue they have there, the old Brave Stadium. The issue is the kids aren't, the kids aren't super excited about, they're excited about playing the state championship, but it's not like, hey, we're going to play in the Benz,
Right.
So there's certainly pluses and minuses to each. I wish they would go back to where it's at the home, one of the team's home fields, or I wish they do where two teams could get together and kind of come to an agreement on where to play. I think that would be a great thing. If Clinch and Irwin are playing in the state championship game, why should they drive to Atlanta and play?
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous.
Play it at the Lounge, play it somewhere cool. And I think that would be a neat thing. I know there's logistical issues with the TV when they're all not the same spot and other things, but that's kind of something I think would be really cool if they let two teams decide, hey, we're going to, if we're both from here, you got to come to an agreement on where to play.
Or rotate them between Athens, Georgia Southern, Mercer.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I mean, I know, I agree. There's logistical things with the television and all that, but man, it's 2024. They can figure it out. They can do what they want. They can do what they want to do. I mean, that's what it all comes down to.
Yeah, but like I told somebody, if I'm lucky enough to play in another state championship game, I'll play whenever and wherever they tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We'll play on the moon. That's rich. Yeah. That's rich people problems right there. Now, we're lucky enough to play in one. We'll go ahead and play in it. Like this year, if you saw where they put the open week in December after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And I don't know. I don't get it, and I can't believe I didn't catch that the third round was not on Thanksgiving week. I just assumed it was, and it's not. But I mean that's just being able to have practice Thanksgiving morning is such a special experience.
It really
and
is.
That week it's just going to be. And again, hopefully we're blessed enough to be in a position to play and to deal with it. But I said, my goodness, what? Maybe that bodes well for us because the years we went to the finals, it's been where something got thrown off. The first year was when we got iced out, and we back the next year. In 2018, the soccer team in Atlanta made the finals, so they had to push it back, and we had to play on a Tuesday. And then, of course, this year with the open week, there's another. And of course, the third time we played, they've almost a COVID year. So every year, something's been a little odd. So maybe that's a good omen for us. I don't know.
Maybe. Hopefully so. That'd be awesome. I'll be there if it happens. I will stand there and cheer you on for sure. You've been a great friend to me over the years, and it has been awesome to see what you've built at Lee County and just getting to go to clinics and speak beside you and behind you and all of the coaches you've met and touched and kids that you coach that have grown up and gone on to be coaches. I know that means a lot to you too, and just all of the positive effects you've had on this profession. And I sure do appreciate you being on with us today.
I appreciate that. And all your listeners, if they haven't heard you speak at a clinic, they need to hear you speak. So that's, that is, and I'm going to take a little credit now. I'm somewhat your agent now.
Yes, you are my agent. There is no somewhat.
So when they called me from Nike Clinic, I was speaking, they said, hey, we're looking for something a little different. Do you know the man of constant sorrow? What do you think about him talking? And I said, yes, I know him. And I think that would be an unbelievable idea. And I sat in there on your first talk there in Daytona Beach, and you got on a town how to pack that moving truck. And I said, oh, boy. And he said, if you want to be a great assistant coach, here's 4 things you need to learn to use. And you had a broom, the thing to line the field, the painting. I can't remember the other lesson.
Washing machine.
I said, laundry detergent. I said, everybody needs to hear this talk. Every coach, head assistant needs to hear this talk. So you guys, if they haven't heard your talk, they need to definitely hear it, because not only is it really good, but it's entertaining as well. So I appreciate you having me on.
Well, thanks so much, Coach. I appreciate it.